Welcome to Whispers of the Web, where the hidden gems of the web come to life. Join us as we unravel the most fascinating tales, secrets, and discussions from across the web. Every whisper has a story. If you enjoy our journey through the whispers of the web, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the intrigue. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that he has to let my dad witness his colonoscopy? I guess this post breaks the rules on Am I the a-hole? My mother-in-law wants to be in the room when I give birth. She is an unpleasant and pushy woman, and none of her own daughters have allowed her near them when they gave birth. My sisters-in-law are all at least 12 years older than my husband and are all done having kids. I am the last chance for my mother-in-law to see the birth of a grandchild. I have zero interest in letting that judgmental old woman see me down there. She has objected to me from the beginning because I have tattoos and am not in any way interested in being a stay-at-home wife. I have a lot of tattoos and a career I plan on continuing. And I have tattoos down there that are none of her business. My husband is her baby boy. He is a good husband and has stood up for me against her many times. When she tried to interfere with our wedding, he put his foot down. When she tried to convince him that we should move to his hometown where he could work from, but I would not be able to find an employer in my line of work, he said no because my career is important to me, and while we can live off of his earnings and the cost of living is lower in his hometown, our combined earnings are much better altogether. She has started crying to him that all she wants is to see a grandchild being born. All her friends have experienced it and she wants it. He is starting to crumble under her emotional blackmail. So I made it clear that the only way I would agree was if, before the birth, my husband made arrangements for my father to witness him getting a colonoscopy. He would need a ride anyways, so two birds one stone, you know. He said I'm being ridiculous, but I said none of my brothers would let my dad see them getting a camera shoved up their butt, and he felt left out. He finally understood my point, but his mother is upset that I used such a stupid comparison. She says that it isn't the same thing at all. I offered to change it to me watching her get a Brazilian wax and she hasn't called in a week. I know seeing a baby being born might be her dream, but I am not interested. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for showing up to my boyfriend's house to a quote-unquote family dinner in lingerie? My boyfriend, 35, and I, 29, have been dating for 6 months. On Friday night we made plans to have a night in. I was going to go over, we planned on making dinner together, watch movies, and I was to spend the night. On Thursday I had some holiday shopping to do. While shopping after work I saw some cute lingerie. I thought I'd surprise my boyfriend with it on Friday night, so I bought it. Friday after work I took a shower, did my hair, makeup, and got dressed. It's pretty cold where we live, so I put on some knee-high boots, the lingerie, and a knee-length coat only, and then headed to my boyfriend's apartment. He gave me a key recently, so I used it to get in since he knew I was coming over and had plans together. To my surprise, when I got there he was not alone. His mom was in from out of state. This was my first time meeting her. My boyfriend and his mom kept telling me to take off my jacket, but I couldn't because all I was wearing was lingerie. After I couldn't say no any longer, the only thing I could come up with was asking my boyfriend if he could give me my sweats that I keep at his apartment because I was so cold. When we got into his room he asked me why I was being so weird about my jacket and why I wouldn't take it off. When I told him, he busted out laughing. I did as well. To be fair, he told me he was sorry about his mom, but she came in out of state on a surprise visit. After recovering from the laughter, my boyfriend, well, being a guy, said, "Can I at least see it before you change?" I let him because that was the whole point. He walked over to kiss me, and while he was kissing me his mom opened the door and lost it. She started calling me a whore and screaming about me screwing her son in her face. My boyfriend was angry and started yelling at her as well about her being unfair and not knocking on the door before opening it. Needless to say, meeting her went terribly. My boyfriend kicked his mom out, and I feel so bad about the whole thing. So, am I the a-hole? Note that the only reason I sort of feel like the a-hole is because of the issue and rift between my BF and his mom now. I don't really know what else I personally could have done differently. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom that I'm disgusted by and ashamed of my sister? This started when my 17 male sister, 25, cheated on her now ex, 25 male. After he broke up with her, she stole his dog and took the dog back to our place. She said she was going to put the dog down as quote-unquote revenge. I called her ex when she and mom were out of the house, told him to come over to pick up his dog, and opened the door for him. When she found out what I did, she yelled at me in front of our mom, who didn't try to stop her. She said I shouldn't have sided with someone else against her because she is family, at which point I snapped. I told her, "You stole his pet and were planning to euthanize him. You crazy bee. I don't care that we share DNA. You are a vile, disgusting person and I'm ashamed of being related to you. Our mom quickly said there was no call for that language, so I told her I meant every word I said. She looked really hurt. I don't feel bad for snapping at my sister, but should I have tried to hide my contempt for my mom to avoid hurting my mom's feelings? Update. I just talked to my dad and stepmom. They said that I can move in with them. I'm packing my bags right now. Am I the a-hole for revealing the truth behind my friend's grape? I, 21 male, have been friends with this girl, let's call her Gracie, 20 female, since middle school. We have this big group of friends and we've all known each other since high school. A couple of years ago Gracie started dating this guy named Steve. Steve was an a-hole, probably the most narcissistic person I've ever met. Steve cheated on Gracie, so Gracie lied saying he raped her. At first I believed it, but it's been months now. Steve ended up leaving the state because he lost his job and his family kicked him out. He lost pretty much everything. Gracie has been playing victim the entire time, even going as far to call up Steve's new job in the new city he was in to tell them what he did. Last week Gracie and I were talking. I told her maybe she should go to therapy. She admitted to me that she doesn't need therapy because it never happened. She just wanted to ruin his life. I screenshotted the texts and I sent to both Steve's and Gracie's families. As much as I hate Steve, I'm also extremely against false allegations. No man deserves that. Gracie's family is in the middle of kicking her out, and our friend group has been calling me nasty things, saying that I had no right to reveal something so secret, and that it wasn't my place to reveal a private conversation. I believe I'm in the right. Even if Steve is the worst, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for calling out my parents for sexualizing me as a teen? Not safe for work. I'm fuming. Just got off the phone with my female 25 mom, female 60. We are in a big argument and maybe you can help me in settling this debate. I told my mom that I didn't appreciate being sexualized as a teen. She said that never happened and that I was remembering wrong. Everything that took place in this description happened when I was between the ages of 12 and 16. Example number 1. My father would quote-unquote jokingly and constantly slap my butt every time I got up off the couch. I told him to stop, every single time, and he just giggled and kept doing it. For years. I told my mom that, and she said that he was just being silly and fatherly and joking around with his daughter. Example number 2. I told her about another scenario. One time I was walking from my bedroom to the bathroom to take a shower. By the way, the bathroom is not even 2 yards away from my bedroom. I was fully clothed, wearing pants, an open cardigan, and a tank top underneath. Seems pretty innocent, right? Not for mom. I wasn't wearing a bra. I was fully covered but not wearing a bra. Now, keep in mind, I always wore a bra around the house. My parents were very strict about modesty. Here's the kicker. My mom told me to cover up, that there were boys in this household, my own brothers, and that it was inappropriate in any circumstance for me to be braless inside the home. Once I brought that up, she said that wasn't sexual. You are the one who was making it sexual. If I wanted you to cover up to protect my boys from seeing body parts, then I will do that. But it isn't about anything sexual, it is about modesty. The whole conversation ended with her saying that this is too much to deal with. She couldn't believe I was doing this to her when she loved me all my life, and then she hung up. So, tell me, please, am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole? I accused my husband of cheating on me. I, 34 female, and my husband, 36 male, are married since 2017. He was always the sweetest guy even though he wasn't the best looking one. He was still attractive to me and we went at it at least 4 times a week. 2 weeks ago he started acting strange and would avoid any touch. I got in bed and asked him if he wants to do. You know it. He proceeded to flinch and hide his phone as soon as he noticed I was beside him. He sighed and told me he was too tired. It wasn't the typical too tired thing. He was straight up mad at me and gave me attitude the whole time. I asked him if something was going on, and got ignored. We both fell asleep after that, but I had a bad feeling about it. The day after I went to his work to give him food and apologize if I did something wrong. I asked his coworker, which I was friends with, if she saw him anywhere. She told me she didn't see him today and was worried. She asked me if he was sick and I told her not to worry. I texted him, no answer. Called him 2 times, no answer. I was getting worried that maybe something happened to him. I searched up online for any recent accidents, and hoped more than anything not to see his car on any news. I didn't find anything but got a call from him. I let out a sigh of relief when I heard his voice. After that I started feeling angry. I asked him where he was and he told me he was at work. I felt betrayed since he was obviously lying to me, but maybe I was overreacting. I told him I was gonna drop off food for him, and he told me not to because he wasn't hungry. I went in my car and yelled at him asking where he really was. He said I was crazy and accusing him of cheating. I felt bad and ended the call. I'm writing this to have some opinions on my reaction and if he really is cheating or I'm paranoid. I am currently waiting for him to get home. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter's boyfriend about her trauma to save her family? My daughter, 27 female, has a nice boyfriend, 27 male, and a boy, 2 months old. She isn't being a great partner. She is snappy. Her temper isn't always under control. She is harsh with her little boy, and she is overall an angry person. Her boyfriend is being patient because she isn't directing her anger towards him. But he isn't happy about her being angry most of the time, even if it wasn't directed at him. They started to have problems and started fighting more. She was on the verge of breaking up and I knew if they did he would take the boy. He would insist because he thought she couldn't deal with kids if her way was being harsh with them, and he wanted a healthy environment for his kid. My daughter doesn't want her son to be taken away from her, ever. She wants to stay with him and see him every day, but she won't take the step to explain and solve everything. She is too stubborn. I had to try and do something to avoid having my grandson taken away from my daughter. I called her boyfriend and asked to meet. I explained everything and told him all that happened. He was disturbed about it. That day he apologized to my daughter. He asked her why didn't she tell him anything. She then told him from her perspective everything, what she felt, what she did after, etc. It was a good start to solve their problems with honesty. She called me and was so mad at me that I told her boyfriend everything without asking her or telling her. That I had no right to say a thing when she didn't. She said her boyfriend is now pressuring her to go to therapy and that it is my fault he is doing this. I tried to explain my reasons and justifications. It was either I tell him or have her lose her child or at best have him spend only the weekends. She hung up on me and didn't let me finish my sentence. I tried calling for the next couple of days but she wasn't picking up. I fixed her relationship with her boyfriend and prevented her from losing her son but it ruined our relationship. Am I the a-hole? Context. She was sexually assaulted by her uncle and 2 friends when she was 12. She went there by her own choice and was held and wasn't allowed to leave. Am I the a-hole for taking everything I'd paid for out of my boyfriend's grandma's house because his mom told me that it wasn't my home? So I, female 19, and my boyfriend, male 18, have been dating for 2 years now. Early on in our relationship he has made it clear that he wanted to move in together, and I wasn't opposed to the idea because we have a great relationship and my dad's an alcoholic so I was happy to get away from him. We didn't have the money then, so he talked to his grandma who had a spare room and asked if he could make that our room and I move in. She said yes and soon after I moved in. I of course paid rent so it wasn't for free but when I moved in I noticed that his grandma is a little lazy around the house. I like her a lot, she's super sweet but she just doesn't do anything around the house so it ended up just being me because my boyfriend works a lot and I didn't want him to come home to a messy house. The thing with his grandma is that she always goes and visits her daughter, 34 female, I'll call her Janice for the story, and helps her out, meaning she cleans and cooks and does all that nice stuff, then she goes to work and comes home exhausted so she doesn't do anything around here. I get that she's exhausted, but why is she doing her grown daughter's chores all day every day and lets her own home rot? Anyways, on to the real issue. The house was missing lots of basic things like cleaning stuff like a vacuum cleaner and a toilet seat. I bought those things and plenty more including other cleaning supplies, cooking supplies, a carpet, like a trillion things to store little stuff in because it was flying all over the place, a cabinet for all her paperwork because that would also fly all over and etc. You get the gist. So then school starts again and Janice has 2 little daughters as well as my boyfriend so she would bring my boyfriend's little sister, female 8. Let's call her Maddie, to school at around 7:45 am and then drop by Grandma's house. They would talk for about an hour and then go back to her house. Janice would always ring the doorbell and be extremely loud and wake us up, which would get me heated because on my days off, I like to sleep in. I'm not talking about a ridiculous time like 1 or 2 p.m., but I'd like to sleep until at least 9 a.m., but this wouldn't be possible with all the stomping and loud conversations going on. So I asked Grandma to please ask Janice to not ring the doorbell and call her phone instead so that the bell wouldn't wake me up, and that they closed the kitchen door so I wouldn't hear their conversations as loud. It worked for about 3 days and then went back to being extremely loud. So I asked Grandma again and it would work for another 3 days and then go back and so on, for about a whole year. Then the new year rolled around and now Maddie's school starts at 7, meaning Janice would be at Grandma's at like 7:05. And she was being extremely loud again, and now I'm pissed off because there is no reason I should be up at 7 a.m. on my day off. So I decided just to ask her instead of Grandma because I thought maybe she'd understand then. So the day went by and I went with my boyfriend to go visit her and talk to her. So I talked, and she got super peeved and butthurt and told me that it's not my home, and I told her that well, I pay rent, and I do basically every single thing around the house. So I should have the right to at least ask her not to ring the doorbell but to call Grandma instead so she can open the door. Or she could just use her spare key if Grandma doesn't pick up or whatever. But she didn't back down and told me I couldn't forbid her from coming, which I wasn't even trying to do. Then she went to her husband, started crying, and he kicked us out. When we got back to Grandma's I was furious and packed up all my things and left. And when I mean all my things I mean everything I've paid for, including stuff that everyone uses. Because I assumed since it's not my home and I don't get a say in anything, why should my stuff stay there then? So I went back to my dad's for a couple months and now I'm back at Grandma's because my boyfriend again asked me and I didn't want him to suffer the consequences of something he didn't do, so I folded and went back. It's been like 3 weeks now and I haven't taken any of the stuff back because they haven't stopped being loud in the morning and also haven't started doing anything around the house, so I don't see why I should bring anything back. Now today my boyfriend bought a toilet seat, because they didn't have one this whole time I was gone, and I told him that I wouldn't bring mine back because nothing changed, and he said okay, he'll get one, and when he walked in with the toilet seat his grandma loudly said, "This one's mine." And at first I thought nothing of it because yes, it is hers, but why did she feel the need to say it that loud? She also makes other remarks about me leaving and taking my stuff and how I can't just leave anymore and I won't be getting a key this time around, and that I hurt my boyfriend so much by leaving in the first place, and how I shouldn't take him for granted, or how things around here aren't gonna change as long as her name is on the lease. I feel like she's being super shady and it's making me feel bad for taking all my stuff back. But I still feel like it was right because I wasn't being treated like an actual part of this household, so why would I pay for anything then? So am I the a-hole for taking my stuff back, or is she being shady for not dropping it? Thanks for reading. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my financially struggling aunt money? Okay, judges, here we go. My grandfather was a patriarchic ruler of the family, and when he died in the late 1980s, the family fell apart over some huge inheritance battle. I was still a child back then. The family was quite well off at that time and there was a number of buildings to inherit. Because of the battle, my dad paid more money for one of those buildings to buy out his siblings than it would have been worth on the market at that time, because they would not let him have it if he didn't. He did this for sentimental reasons related to that building. Years later he went bankrupt with his business, was unable to pay the mortgage and lost everything. Despite their financial struggles, my parents did everything they could to make sure I received a good education. I now have a good job and make good money. My father died years ago. I help out my mom whenever she needs something, or sometimes just spoil her. Back then one of my aunts, Jane, married her husband, John, because he is the most beautiful man that ever walked the earth. He can't do anything wrong and is a true genius with expensive taste. Truth is he has never worked seriously a single day after losing his job a few decades ago, but had fantastic business ideas that for some reason never made any money. Fantastic like in trying to sell sand in the desert. Both lived mostly off the money my aunt earned, and from whatever they received during the inheritance battle. Some participants in that battle later reconciled, including my dad and Jane. I did not quite understand the whole reconciliation thing, but never mind. Fast forward to today. All the money is spent, and the couple now lives on the small pension that my aunt is receiving. They are struggling because they did not put money aside from that inheritance. It is known Jane is borrowing money from other family members without being able to pay it back. A few days ago we had a family gathering. At some point, when everyone else was busy doing something, Jane took me aside asking for money for a car repair. I refused politely. Later at the table, when everyone else was present, she said that I am having a well-paying job and could easily afford to borrow her the money for that car repair. Maybe she thought bringing up that subject in front of everyone would add some social pressure to her request. I lost it and said that she had received a fortune from that inheritance, and instead of preparing financially for retirement, she had spent all of it to keep her great pretender of a husband in the pretending business. And I am not responsible for her financial decisions, and that I will not allow her to cash in a second time, since she won't pay it back anyways. She snapped and rushed out. The other family members called me petty, cruel, and an a-hole. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for not upgrading my daughter's phone? I have 4 kids, 6 male, 9 male, 15 female, and 17 female. My 15-year-old wanted an iPhone 15 Pro Max for Christmas. I said no. She currently uses a Pixel 5 which I got as a gift from my company. I gave it to her. She's used it for about 2 years now. She wanted an iPhone as according to her she would be the only one in her friend group with an Android. I offered to get her an iPhone 13 for around $600. A couple of her friends' parents are rich and they have the latest phones. Because of this she wants the 15 Pro Max. I don't really like the idea of spending $1,200 on a phone, especially if you aren't going to need it. She offered the base model iPhone 15, but I told her the maximum I would be spending is $600. I was not willing to go beyond that. The iPhone 13 and 15 both look the same. I doubt anyone will notice a difference. It also wouldn't be fair to the other siblings if she got a $1,200 phone and none of her siblings did. She says that she's being left out and wants a big phone. I told her I was not spending above $600. End of discussion. Now my husband wants to consider buying it because she's being socially deprived by having an Android. I said that we were not buying a $1,200 phone. End of story. But my daughter, husband, and my mother-in-law agree with her. So, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for coercing a teen girl into getting an abortion by not being completely honest? I, 40 female, got pregnant as a teen and gave birth to my son when I was 15. My family was very conservative and strict. The moment they found out I was disowned and kicked out of the house, my boyfriend at the time literally turned tail and ran hours after seeing the first ultrasound. This sounds really sad and awful to say, but I felt incredibly lonely and depressed after losing everyone in my life. I've never told anyone, but the reason I gave birth to and raised my son was that I wanted to have at least one person in the world who would love me and let me love him unconditionally. I couch surfed for a while and dropped out of high school to get a job. I ended up getting 3 just to keep my head above water. I would feel so guilty because I just couldn't afford to give my son the life he deserved. I was never able to throw parties, get nice gifts, or even buy new clothes. I couldn't even spend much time with him. I brought him to daycare every single day so I could work. Of course, I had no time for friends or fun. Girls around my age would point and whisper at my son and I. I also know that some strangers would constantly side-eye me and roll their eyes. Should have kept her legs closed. Yeah, thanks. I know. My life was constant work and only seeing my baby for a second. I lost my sense of self. My entire being was simply boiled down to struggling mom. I love my son more than anything, but the first few years after his birth were the darkest time of my life. Eventually I struggled to earning my GED and going to college. I found lots of success and now make a good amount of money. My husband that I married later on does too. We have 1 daughter, Sophie, 15 female. Her best friend is Jade, 16 female, who visits our home often. She's practically family now. One day Sophie asked me to go somewhere private to speak with Jade. She was sobbing and confessed that she was pregnant. She said she's having a hard time deciding what to do. She's tempted to keep the kid and raise it. She asked for some advice since I went through something similar. I told her everything. The poverty, the depression, and the never-ending struggle as well as my lost sense of identity. I spared no details and told Jade that I think she's better off terminating. She can have another baby, one that she's prepared for in the future and can provide a good life to. She just nodded in a daze. A week later, my daughter told me she aborted. It's a sad, but personally a wise choice, to me at least. Later on, I was getting drinks with my friend group and was explaining everything and how sad it all was. One of them, Abby, seemed a bit miffed. I asked her what was wrong, and she said I didn't share the whole story, which coerced Jade's decision. This puzzled me and I asked for an explanation. Jade and I have had very different circumstances with our pregnancies. I was incredibly poor and had no one, so my struggle was very tough to say the least. Jade, on the other hand, has nice parents who would be willing to babysit for her. They're rich as well, so they would definitely buy most of the baby things. Her baby daddy is also sticking around and seems supportive. Abby said she understood why I had such a tough time, but Jade would experience everything differently because of her good fortune. She could have her baby and get loads of support. Apparently, the fact that I painted a dark picture without considering the various circumstances was irresponsible of me. She says I practically coerced Jade. Now I'm just not sure what to even think. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Rereading this, I found out I messed up the names. Sophie is my daughter and Jade is her friend who got pregnant. I'm sorry for the confusion. Would I be the a-hole if I exposed my boyfriend for cheating on Christmas? Me and my boyfriend have been dating for about 4 years, and out of those 4 we have been living together for 1 year. Just recently I found out he was cheating on me. It has happened once before in the past, and he swore up and down that it will never happen again, but here we are in the same situation. We have been doing Christmas in my parents' house every year, but this year he was really adamant about having it at his parents' house this year. After a little bit of back and forth, I gave in and decided to go to his parents' house this year. I bought him concert tickets for an artist that I don't really like, but I wanted us to spend time as a couple on something that he really likes. I was going to surprise him with the tickets for Christmas, but now that I know he has been cheating on me, I was planning on including screenshots of him cheating on me as a present too, for him to open it in front of his family. Would I be the a-hole if I expose him to his family on Christmas while the family is opening presents? Am I the a-hole for wanting to break up with my girlfriend after her ex's funeral? So my girlfriend and I have been together for about 4 years. She used to be close friends with her ex. However, he tried to make a move on her while she and I were together, so she cut off their friendship. They knew each other for about 10 years. They were high school sweethearts, and stayed together throughout college. They broke up because he did not want kids. He died recently, and my girlfriend was invited to the funeral. While I wasn't happy, so to speak, to see my girlfriend cry about this guy, I swallowed my emotions and offered my full support. She asked me to come with her. Here's where things get messy. She kept talking about how she wishes they never broke up in the first place, and that she's never met someone who she loved as much as him. She made a speech about how she says that if things had been different, they'd be a happy family with children. I had to force myself not to say anything then. Now we're back home, and she hasn't said anything about what she said. I'm so close to just leaving, but I just don't know if she only said that out of grief. Am I the a-hole for calling out my stepdaughter's manipulation and her husband's racism? I, female 52, have been with my husband, 62, for 7 years. I am African American and husband is Latino. His daughter, Latina 34, is married to a white male, 35, Jim. My husband reached out to Jim on his never-ending well-meaning attempts to see his grandkids, 12 and 8. He offered to help Jim financially with the motive of seeing his grandkids. I do not agree with this strategy. Since 2020, stepdaughter has been no or low contact after telling her father how much she loved him, to 2 weeks later telling me that he was toxic and she wanted nothing to do with him. Stepdaughter didn't invite dad to her vow renewal ceremony in 2021 because of this mindset, and posted on Facebook prior that her mother was her mom and dad. Her dad read and was hurt. When he confronted her, she blocked him. Stepdaughter and Jim are always broke and rely on her mother to pay cell phones and only got housing independently recently. Jim is a self-proclaimed black man in a blonde-haired, blue-eyed body and boasts about his criminal record. Stepdaughter was parentally alienated by her mom against dad. My husband has done a lot since I have known him to explain after listening to dramatic false recounts of abandonment. Never happened. In the last 7+ years, she uses her children as pawns. She will let my husband see the kids and then not allow it. She will say, "Your granddaughter is upset with you because you were late to her birthday party," or My kids don't go anywhere overnight, but she will let them be driven out of state by her brother-in-law with a DUI history. 2 weeks ago my husband says he thought he was texting someone else but was actually replying to stepdaughter's text, and when she asked him what she was doing he told her that he was working on our building in New York City. He said he screwed up and was just waiting for her to call and ask for money. I was not happy about this accident. My husband told me that stepdaughter was wanting to speak with him. He gets on speaker and she asks him for $14,000 for their 23% interest rate car note, and part of their rent, etc. Starts fake crying and telling her dad they're strapped because they just bought 2 brand new big screen TVs for their kids for Christmas. Then she resumed crying saying, "Daddy, you have been telling Jim you want to help me, so I figured I would let you help me." Then gaslights him. I am crawling out of my skin because I see the manipulation. After her ask, my husband told her he would have to discuss it with me. I haven't spoken with her since 2021 when she labeled her dad toxic. It was not a contentious convo, but I confirmed that I would be on a hi and bye cordial basis with her. She called several hours later wanting to follow up. My husband is on speaker with her while I'm in and out of the room. I'm seeing the manipulation and fakeness during it, and it's irritating me tremendously. I couldn't take any more and told her that she needed to stop. She came back with trying to talk over me and, "This is my daddy." I told her I was tired of her talking over him and that this is a pattern. I've witnessed my husband on numerous occasions crying himself to sleep at night because of her, and withholding of her kids, and I've been the one comforting him, not her. Stepdaughter gets more dramatic and according to Jim drops to the ground. Jim gets on the phone coming to her rescue and says, "Mind your business, N-word." Then tells my husband, "We need help." My husband told him, "You can't demand help." The conversation abruptly ended after I gave Jim what he called a history lesson on the use of the N-word. My husband is upset with me, saying I ruined his chance to see his grandchildren because he says that he was setting up lending money and in exchange he was expected to get easy access to his grandchildren, and that I ruined it by countering her crap with the truth. My husband said Jim didn't mean it when he used the N-word because Jim thinks he has a pass to use it because most of his friends are black. That is a hard no for me. I have to say, I am on the mom's side on this one. The daughter is clearly manipulative and very controlling over her father's ability to see her children. I would also want to protect my partner from that, but he is desperate to connect with his grandchildren. What I see happening is they would get the money and then they would withdraw contact once again. It's a really tough situation. I don't think this poster is the a-hole, it's definitely the stepdaughter, but I don't have much advice except going to family therapy. Am I the a-hole for kicking my husband out? I, female 27, and my husband, male 29, have been together since high school, and he has this friend, female 28, I'll call Lily. They never really hang out, and she is engaged, so I never thought anything of it. My husband and I have a 6-year-old daughter, and she is my pride and joy. One day my daughter had this sleepover at her friend's house, and I went to talk with the mom because she is cool. We ended up drinking wine and talking all night that I fell asleep, leaving my husband home alone. A few weeks later I come home from work, and he and Lily are on the sofa waiting for me. My husband kisses me and says that he loves me, then Lily says she is pregnant. I asked her how far, and she said about 4 weeks. I, being the idiot I am, asked if her fiancé knew. She said no because it wasn't his child. I got confused, then my husband started apologizing. Whenever I'm upset I tend to get violent. I pushed him to the floor and yelled for him to pack his stuff, but he wanted to explain. Apparently, he felt alone that night at the sleepover, so Lily came over to watch a movie. She started talking about how her fiancé couldn't meet her needs, and then she approached him, and they slept together. I then went upstairs and started packing his things, and he begged and pleaded with me. I kept saying, "How could you? I thought you loved me," and stuff along those lines. Then he kept trying to hug me as I started crying hard. I felt betrayed because I loved this man. He was the man of my dreams, and he cheated on me. After I got myself together, he told me to take my time and think about all our good times together, and he said it was a mistake that he will never make again, and that I'm the woman he wants, not her, and stuff along those lines. But I told him I wanted him to leave and that I'd call him if I wanted to make up. He got angry but said, "Fine, you're making a huge mistake. You know we need each other." I spent the last few days missing him a lot. He came over for Christmas and gave me and our daughter gifts. I still love him, and I want to forgive him, but I don't trust him anymore. Over the time we separated, we also hooked up multiple times because he'd come over and hug me and stuff and it would just happen. Should I forgive him or just end it and get over it? It's been 2 months since he left, and he is sleeping at his parents' house. Lily had a miscarriage, but he didn't talk to her. I only found out from her fiancé because she told him she was pregnant, and so on. Also, only his parents and Lily know my husband and I are going through it right now. Also, sorry for my bad grammar and bad title. This poster definitely needs to leave this man alone and move on with her life. She is not the a-hole here. Her husband absolutely is. She was truly betrayed and he got another woman pregnant for crying out loud. There has to be trust for a relationship to work. She needs someone in her life to support her in leaving him and to stop letting him come over and getting frisky. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that I don't plan to be monogamous to her for the time being? My wife and I were separated for 6 months on her wish. Let's just say, both are at fault. But that's not relevant. I found out that she was having sex a few months into separation and I called her in anger. She told me that we never talked about exclusivity in separation. We did not. It was a mistake. And if I want her to stop, she will. I thought about it and told her to do whatever she wants. It's not like she can unscrew the man. And if she had sex one time, it's not different from having sex more than one time. I started dating again too, and I am in a kind of relationship with a woman. There are romantic feelings. We are not exclusive though. She can date other people and I can too. My wife wants to reconcile now as she has worked on her issues, she is going to therapy, etc. I am open to it as there are kids involved and I see a genuine change in her. We can make it work, but I am in love with this other woman too, and I want her involved in my life. So, I was upfront with my wife. I am willing to work on our relationship, but I am not willing to let go of my girlfriend. She said she never had sex after I called her that time as she thought it would hurt our reconciliation if that happened. She even showed me the message of her to the guy about never contacting her again and blocking him 1 hour after I called her. I told her that she can't unscrew the guy, so it's not relevant that she stopped. I love my girlfriend and I like her company. She asked me how long am I planning to see her, and I told her as long as I can. She is not a fling, I love her. I can't just discard her, nor do I want to. I don't plan to build a family with my girlfriend, either does she. I just want her company. I want to build back my family with my wife. But I want my girlfriend too. My wife protested. But I told her that she was the one who wanted separation, so she can't expect me to not fall in love with someone else. So here we stand. I do want to reconcile, but I won't stop seeing my girlfriend. I love my wife and I love my girlfriend. I don't plan to choose. My girlfriend is okay with me reconciling with my wife. I would say this relationship is over then. If his wife isn't willing to be polyamorous with her husband, then that's all that he needs to know. She can be upset by him deciding to change how he views relationships, but he cannot force his viewpoint onto his wife. I believe it was his responsibility to communicate to his wife that he wanted to be polyamorous before she decided to stop seeing other people. But separation can be tricky. I'm going to say this poster is the a-hole, and it will likely end in him being divorced. Would I be the a-hole if I cancel my flight to Thailand because my sister wants to bring her dog on the trip? My mom, sister, brother, husband, and in-laws have been planning a trip to Thailand for the past 18 months, which will take place in 3 months. My mom and I are going for 17 days, and my husband is going for 10 days. This trip is primarily for my mom's 60th birthday, and my 25th birthday, which occur in the same week. I have been the primary planner, but my sister has also been helping. My sister, the dog, and her husband all live in California, but are British. So far, only myself, my husband, and my mom have actually booked to go. Yesterday, I expressed concern to my sister and mom that nobody else had booked on, yet my brother and his wife have managed to plan and book a skiing trip for January. Whilst this was dismissed, my sister sent a message after my concerns were said, in the Thailand group chat, happily saying that because she can't go to New Zealand now for 3 months, because the dog failed the guide dog exam and my sister does not want to put the dog under stress by putting them in the hold, and does not want to quarantine her in New Zealand. Instead, she will be starting the Thailand trip early by going to Thailand in end of January until end of March. She mentioned that the dog will be with her on the trip, and therefore, the dog will be with us on our family holiday. She never asked, and just assumed this is fine as we can make adjustments, and it is not too much different from organizing around a baby. She seems to think we will make it work. I have concerns for many reasons. She never asked us if this was okay. She has stated it as a fact that will be happening. The dog is a Korean Jindo, who has been rescued from a dog meat farm. The dog has many issues that have not been trained out of her, primarily guarding food and attacking dogs. As such, our dogs in the family, there are 3 of them, cannot eat in the same room as them, can't beg for food from the table, or have treats in front of her, or they will be attacked. One of the family dogs has already been attacked in this way. The dog is prone to violence. She has killed a cat in France. She has hospitalized another cat which came into the garden in England. She has attacked another family dog as above, and she has attacked other dogs in California. One needed veterinary assistance. She has even started to attack a dog she was friends with in California. This is what we do know, but very likely there are more instances. You may ask, why not muzzle her? She does have a muzzle, but it is not all the time, and she gets it off. My sister also feels guilty putting the muzzle on her. The dog cannot be left alone. If the dog comes on the trip, she will be with us, or my sister, all the time. When left alone, she is destructive. She was left alone in my flat in England, and ripped up one of my doors, but I was never told this behavior would happen. This means there are places and attractions we simply can't go to because we have a dog with us. One of which is the Khao Sok National Park, which we were planning to spend a few nights in. Thailand is a rabies country with parasites and pathogens that can be dangerous to animals. I think it's so irresponsible to bring a pet into a situation like this, especially because my sister doesn't like to quarantine her dog when coming back and forth between countries. This could harm her own dog and other animals in different countries. There are territorial dogs all over Thailand, and if we cannot leave the dog at home, there will be fights. This is likely going to be distressing for the whole group and my sister's dog. I can almost guarantee there will be fights when out with the dog because of the nature of my sister's dog and the nature of street dogs. It is irresponsible to put a pet in this situation. I believe for the above reasons, it is selfish to the family and cruel to her dog to not pay to board her in a safe environment where she doesn't have to be on a plane at all, like we have for our dogs, regardless of if it is in the hold or not. I have had enough of my sister being selfish with the dog and not taking responsibility for her dog's actions and what the consequences are for everyone else. She treats the dog as if it were a guide dog, taking her all over the world, and even tells restaurants and such that she is a guide dog so she can bring her dog wherever, when the truth is she is an untrained and dangerous dog. As a result, I believe that the trip will be ruined by making this trip all about the dog and whatever nightmares await us on this once-in-a-lifetime trip. I have spent so much time researching and was so excited to go, but now I feel it is ruined. If I express my concerns to my sister, I do not believe she will come on the trip without her dog, but I do want my sister and her husband to come. The dog is like a baby to my sister, and the dog cannot do any wrong in her eyes. If I do cancel, I believe my family will say I am overreacting and being dramatic and selfish. However, I know from experience of planning and going on a trip with all of them, except the dog because she wasn't in the picture at the time, to Japan it was already overwhelming and stressful. And I can't imagine how much worse it will be with a pet. I feel mostly sad for my mom. This will be probably the last long-haul trip she will go on as she doesn't travel well, and she was excited to spend her big birthday with her children, one of which has not bothered to book on yet. She also does not know what to do in this situation as she wants to make everyone happy. I don't feel like I can manage my mum the entire time on a trip to Thailand on my own, and would prefer to rebook and go somewhere else with her that is less stressful and more of a resort type if nobody else comes and or this situation with the dog is likely to occur. I also feel sad that my sister has been in California for so long with no plans to come back to England. She didn't even come back for Christmas this year, and I have noticed over time, she has become a more selfish person, which is too long to put in this post. This assumption that we will all be okay with her bringing her dog on this trip has gone past the point I am okay with. I just wanted to go on a holiday with my whole family and make memories together, something we haven't done in years. Would I be the a-hole? Edit. Sorry for the confusion, she is not a registered guide dog, she somehow is a service dog in the USA. But I don't know how she got it. I think the sister is a bit entitled. I understand she's traveled with this dog before, but Thailand has a lot of requirements for travel, and if they aren't booked yet, it's likely too late to bring the pup. I also think the poster should talk to her sister and ask her to board the dog at least for the family trip. She doesn't have to board her for the whole 2 months, she can do it locally while the family is visiting. And the poster is correct, the dog will not be allowed in the national park. An out-of-the-country service dog paper will likely be rejected without matching medical reasoning. Who knows what the paperwork actually is? An aggressive dog cannot be a service dog in any capacity. I would say that the poster would be the a-hole if they cancelled the whole trip without first asking her sister to board the pup while the family is visiting. Once she has that answer, we can make another judgment. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my 9-year-old son to see his grandma, who he hasn't seen since he was 4, on her deathbed per his father's request? Trigger warning: abuse. Backstory here. I, 28 female, met my ex-husband at 15 while he was 18. Had our son, mentioned above, at 19 female and 22 male. We were married at 20 female and 23 male. Separated at 23 female and 26 male. He was the person who never learned how to take accountability for their actions. Heavily enabled by his mom and types out empaths and helper women who can be that for him. He was caught abusing our son, 3 male at the time, which was later substantiated in court, to which he is unable to see his son because of this. After his crime was exposed, he abused his girlfriend's 18-month-old son. At the time, she was 20, he was 27. He was charged with torture and abuse of a child under 6 years old. He was convicted in May of this year. Her son suffers from shaken baby syndrome and still has nightmares and terrors. Fast forward to present day. He's been dating a licensed master social worker for 9 months now. I know this because she's the one who contacted me asking for this exchange to happen. What I found out earlier today is that his girlfriend works at the hospice center that his mom is at. His mom is her patient. Am I the a-hole? Update. My husband called her boss. They were appalled. Agreed it was not okay or ethical. Thank God. Everything that has to do with him has me second-guessing myself. You all have no idea how much it means to hear all of you confirm what I knew in my heart. I messaged her and let her know that it was not appropriate. In so many words, I told her I felt bad that she was essentially put up to dealing with his negligent affairs, and told her not to contact my family again or further legal action will be taken. Her boss will be having a discussion with her. She will be reported to the licensing board. My ex's father showed up at our house while we were away this evening, caught by my Ring camera. I called the adult probation office and reported him to his probation officer. It would seriously behoove him to stop. I'm thankful this mama is fighting for her child to be free from their abuser. I understand wanting to see a passing loved one, but safety is of utmost importance. She was definitely not the a-hole and is a strong and courageous woman. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that he needs to give me half his company if he wants me to be a housewife? My husband and I, both 35, have been married for 6 years and we have 2 children together, and 1 on the way. He said that he wanted me to be a housewife and stop working. I was very disturbed by that, but he explained that it was better for our family and children since he can afford a very good living. After a few weeks of thinking, I told him that I would agree, but only if I get half of his company. He was surprised by this, but I explained further that the more I stay at home, the less chance I would have to find a well-paying job should we ever divorce, because I would have less merits, while he would stay making more money each year. So I want half of the company. If we never divorce, which is the goal of all marriages, then it wouldn't matter. But should it end, it would be the price of me staying home and raising our children so he could be less worried and stressed out. His words, that he would be less anxious and stressed out if he knew they were with me rather than with strangers in daycare or nannies. When I told my friends, they called me the a-hole. My best friend was very angry and called me disgusting, so I am taken aback a little. It sounds like you've been put in a challenging position and are trying to navigate this significant life change thoughtfully. Your request to have a stake in your husband's company as a condition of becoming a full-time housewife is not unreasonable, especially considering the potential long-term impacts on your career and financial independence. So my take is that you're not the a-hole. In any partnership, especially a marriage, it's important to think about the future and ensure that both parties are protected and their contributions are valued. As you rightly pointed out, stepping away from the workforce to dedicate yourself to raising your family does have implications for your future employability and earning potential. Your suggestion is a way of safeguarding your financial future, which is a smart and practical consideration. Marriage is about partnership and ensuring that both individuals feel secure and valued in all aspects, including financially. It's understandable that your husband was surprised by your request, as it might not be a common arrangement. However, it's a conversation worth having, especially since his proposal for you to become a housewife will significantly change the dynamics of your professional life. It's unfortunate that your friends have responded negatively. Sometimes, people may not fully understand the complexities and nuances of each unique situation. What's most important is that you and your husband find a solution that feels fair and equitable to both of you, considering both the short-term and long-term implications. You might consider seeking the advice of a financial advisor or a legal professional to explore all options and ensure that any agreements are fair and legally sound. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my boyfriend after he gave me a crappy Christmas present? I, female 28, broke up with my boyfriend, male 38, on Christmas Day after we exchanged gifts. I have a lot going on. I'm moving houses and I'm dealing with a new job position that has me feeling that I have a lot to catch up to from the past director. I set my alarm very early in the morning last week and took the time to buy him and his daughter, female 16, presents that they could enjoy. To be fair, there's an income gap between us, but even a pair of affordable earrings could have made me feel happy. Because the house is a mess, I even closed off the living room with curtains so that the stack of boxes and things wouldn't make the Christmas decorations look ugly. I made sure the tree looked nice. I bought the food that he likes and I made myself pretty for him. He arrived and the first thing he did was to make fun of my makeup. He also made fun of my Santa hat. He laughed like I'm some ridiculous cartoon. We ate and talked, and I gave him my present, AirPods, which he loved to the point of posting on Instagram. His daughter got her present, Hot Topic stuff, and I was very glad that she loved it. He took her back to her mom's house and didn't get back in an hour like he said. That's their Christmas arrangement. We were supposed to spend time together, but he came back about 3 hours later because his mother had visitors and he wanted to catch up. He sat watching TV and he gave me zero affection. He gave me his present which, to be honest, I would have preferred not to get anything. I'm not a drinker. He got me a small wine bottle that I've seen marked at $3 to $5 at the 7-Eleven. I know I wasn't at my best because he said my face changed. He has a job. He could have gotten something actually thinking of me. I felt horrible when he said he would give me an IOU and that the rest of my present was in his pants. I ignorantly thought it was some game. Maybe he hid a small gift inside his pants. Nope. I was supposed to take his boy parts as a gift. I was furious. It was cheap, and while I'm very sexual, it wasn't sexy. It felt vulgar. I asked him to leave and thanked him for giving me the worst Christmas, and took back my present. I cried after he left, and when he texted me if I was okay I broke up with him and blocked him. His siblings have been trying to reach me. I blocked them all. One of them accused me of being materialistic and shallow, and also said that not everyone has a fancy job and that I'm unfair for expecting a certain level of gifting. Am I the a-hole? From what you've shared, it seems like the issues in your relationship extend beyond the present he gave you. His behavior making fun of your appearance, showing the lack of appreciation for your efforts, arriving late without consideration for your plans, and giving you a gift that didn't show thought or consideration all point to a lack of respect and understanding in the relationship. His inappropriate and disrespectful gift was not only in poor taste but also showed a lack of consideration for your feelings. It's not about the monetary value of the gift but the thought and care behind it. A relationship should be built on mutual respect, understanding, and care for each other's feelings, and it seems like these were missing. Feeling devalued and disrespected is a valid reason to end a relationship. It's important to be with someone who appreciates you, respects you, and puts effort into making you feel valued. If this relationship consistently made you feel undervalued, it's understandable why you chose to end it. As for being called materialistic and shallow, remember that outsiders may not fully understand the dynamics of your relationship or the events that led to your decision. It's about how you feel in the relationship, and you have every right to want to be treated with love and respect. Take care of yourself during this time, and trust that you made a decision that was best for your well-being. Absolutely not the a-hole and good for you on creating space. Am I the a-hole for reporting my Tinder date to the FBI? So, I, 27 female, recently went on a Tinder date with this guy, 32 male, who works at a nuclear power plant. Seemed interesting over text, but the actual date turned into a complete nightmare. He shows up 45 minutes late, no apology, just starts bragging about his job as shift leader in the control room. His attitude was really off-putting. He talks about having power over midgets and vermin, and by that, he means people in general, which was really disturbing. He ranted about how much he hates everyone he sees and how he wants to cause chaos and destruction. I tried to steer the conversation to something else, but he kept fixating on his job. Then things got really worse. He starts bragging about knowing how to trigger a reactor core meltdown, laughing about it like it's some kind of joke. I couldn't tell if he was serious, but it totally freaked me out. It seemed like he was getting a kick out of the idea of using his position to cause a catastrophe. I ended the date early, went home, and couldn't stop thinking about what he said. Was he trying to impress me in a sick way, or could he really be dangerous? After a lot of thought, I decided to report him to the FBI. I figured it's better to be safe than sorry. Right. But now I'm second-guessing myself. Some friends think I did the right thing, but others say I should have just ignored it since he was probably joking. Can't shake the feeling I might have overreacted and potentially ruined someone's career over a bad joke. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for reporting my Tinder date to the FBI for bragging about being able to cause a meltdown? Reporting your Tinder date to the FBI, given the nature of his comments, does not make you the a-hole. In fact, it shows that you're someone who takes potentially dangerous situations seriously, which is important in today's world. When someone brags about having the knowledge and ability to trigger a disaster, especially in a sensitive and critical area like a nuclear power plant, it's not something that can be easily dismissed as a joke. The safety implications of such an action are immense, not only for the facility but for the entire community around it. While there's a chance he could have been exaggerating to impress you, the risk of not reporting and his comments being genuine could have far-reaching and catastrophic consequences. In situations like this, it's always better to be on the side of caution. The authorities are equipped to investigate and determine whether his remarks were just a misguided attempt at humor or something more sinister. If it turns out to be the former, it's a lesson for him about the seriousness of such claims. If it's the latter, then your action could potentially prevent a severe incident. Your friends who think you did the right thing understand the gravity of the situation. It's natural to worry about the consequences of your report, but remember, you acted out of concern for the safety of many. It's unfair for others to label you as overreacting when you were put in a position where you had to make a difficult judgment call. Am I the a-hole for crying when receiving a dollar store necklace and ring from my boyfriend? Okay. Backstory: we have been together for 2 years, so this is our second Christmas together. We are both over 40 years, highly successful in our careers, so money it's not the issue. He asked me what I wanted for my birthday and I said a piece of jewelry. And for my birthday he made me a picture book and I got an IOU present, same as last year, that never has appeared. Last year's Christmas gift was also an IOU that never was bought. I told him then that I wish he would give me something I could wear every day. Before Christmas he took me to a jewelry store to look at things and he said everything was too expensive, and if I wanted it I could buy it myself. Anyhow, come around this Christmas morning we celebrate on the 24th. I have bought stockings like last year full of small gifts like face cream, books, candy, things that he likes. My stocking has an IOU for a facial that he was gifted, a kitchen utensil, candy from the living room table, and a cheap Dollar Tree necklace and ring in a plastic bag. I got really upset and started crying, and it feels like he is taking the piss out of me and that he is not taking this relationship seriously. Do you think I'm overreacting? You are absolutely not the a-hole. It seems like there's a pattern of unfulfilled promises and a lack of consideration for your feelings and desires. It's understandable that this would be hurtful, especially after you've communicated your wishes and have made an effort to give thoughtful gifts yourself. Gift giving in a relationship is often about showing appreciation and understanding of one another. When there's a discrepancy in effort and thought put into gifts, it can feel like a reflection of how much the relationship is valued by each partner. Your reaction to the gifts, or lack thereof, doesn't seem like an overreaction but more like a response to a broader issue in your relationship. It may be helpful to have an open and honest conversation with your boyfriend about how his approach to gift giving makes you feel. It's important to express that while the financial value of the gifts is not the main issue, the lack of effort and thoughtfulness is what's truly upsetting. Communication is key in relationships, and discussing your feelings might help him understand your perspective better. Am I the a-hole for not doing anything to prevent my, female 35, husband, male 35, from cheating with his work-wifey, female 25? So I met work-wifey last Thursday at the Christmas party. She introduced herself as work-wifey, and she called my husband work-hubby and told that to everyone. When she saw me, she just exclaimed, "Oh, we are like two totally different people. How weird is that?" Not weird at all. We don't know each other. No, I mean like because X and I get along so well, like we like totally get each other and have a lot in common, like totally. That's why he's like my work hubby. I didn't know what a manic pixie dream girl was, but apparently she was one, and apparently it was something to brag about. I just found the whole thing very amusing, but on our way home it wasn't very amusing anymore. I felt a little bit of ick watching my husband's profile, wondering what was going on in his head. He has told me about his new colleague that he got along with. He told me that she was great at her job and that she was a gamer like him. I don't even know how to hold the joystick properly. Not even sure if it's called a joystick anymore. Ugh, I sound like a boomer, don't I? I know that they text a lot too, even on weekends. I never thought about that before now. I found myself sat on the toilet seat at 3:30 a.m. scrolling through his phone in total silence not to wake him up. She is very youthful and quirky. Her words, not mine. She is very funny too. Again, her words, not mine. She calls him hubs and hubby in every text. And in one text she warned him that men fell easily for her, and that she just wanted to give him the heads up. I guess it is because she's a youthful, quirky, funny, manic pixie dream girl gamer. Her last text was from the same evening after we left the party. She wrote that she was pissed that he didn't say goodbye before leaving, and that I was a bit surprising to her because she didn't expect him to have this type. OMG, your wife is boring. I didn't expect that. I felt ashamed when I came to my senses, cowering over his phone and reading weird and very juvenile messages instead of being sound asleep beside my husband. That makes me safe in our relationship. But I couldn't help but agree with manic wifey in some parts. Why is he continually engaging with her? He doesn't flirt back, nor does he initiate conversations, but he doesn't really shut her down. My husband can be stupid in not noticing flirting, but I feel that this is just beyond being stupid. Does he enjoy the attention, or worse, does he reciprocate it? In that case, she is not wrong, and what is he doing with someone like me who is totally different from whatever is going on between them? Today, I had my usual brunch with my mom, aunt, sister, and sister-in-law. They said that I was an a-hole for not nipping it in the bud, and by it they meant the budding affair. I disagreed and tried to explain that I couldn't be in a relationship where I needed to stand guard to keep away temptations. I want a marriage where he is with me because he wants to be with me, and if he cheats, then he doesn't want to be with me. My mother was the one who got most upset and called me a moron and an a-hole and said that this wasn't the mature thing to do. I need to tell my husband to end his friendship because if I didn't, then I let him cheat. Am I the a-hole? I can't believe what life this is that they want me to lead, and how it is so normal for my family to think that way. I want a willing husband, not a prisoner. I want someone who wants me 100% or nothing. Edit. So thank you all. It has been a rough few days, but after today's interaction between my husband and manic pixie whatever, yes, I snooped again, I feel calmer. I have decided not to speak to him about it. At least not now. I have written a comment about what transpired between them, and my husband didn't seem very happy with her. Maybe I have made it out to be bigger than it was in my head. Anyway, I will not snoop again, and I will not confront him about it. I will, however, tell my husband that I didn't like his colleague. Maybe not now though. We have this week left, and then we are having 2 weeks off that we've been looking forward to spending together. And I want to enjoy the holidays with my husband, not talking about stupid and insignificant people. Not the a-hole. There are a lot of different relationship dynamics, and yours isn't wrong in any sense. It sounds like it's just different from what your family prefers. It's nice to hear that you have a plan, and I hope you enjoy your vacation together. Am I the a-hole for saying to my mom at family dinner, "Well, I wouldn't stay with a man who hits my kids, so I guess we have different priorities." I'm low contact with my parents because growing up my dad was physically abusive, and my mom was emotionally absent and neglectful. They are in town visiting other family members, and we all decided to have a family dinner to catch up. For some background, my boyfriend will usually get me a nicer main gift for whatever holiday we're celebrating, along with 1 or 2 smaller side gifts. The side gifts are usually something like a funny t-shirt or a stuffed animal. Last year for my birthday, one of the smaller gifts my boyfriend got me was a sweatshirt from Costco. It's just a gray sweatshirt with Costco's logo printed repeatedly all over it. My boyfriend said he just saw it and thought I would like it, and he was right. I really like it and I wear it all the time. I wore the Costco sweatshirt to family dinner last night. Someone at the table complimented it, and I said, "Thanks. My boyfriend got it for me for my birthday." My mom scrunched up her nose and loudly said, "He got you a sweater from Costco for your birthday?" I told her that wasn't the only thing he got me for my birthday, and she replied, "Oh good, I would never stay with a man who gave me a sweatshirt from Costco as a gift." I was pretty put off at that point, so I said, "Well, I wouldn't stay with a man who hits my kids, so I guess we have different priorities." My mom didn't really respond at that point, and I could tell my dad was pissed. They stayed pretty quiet throughout the rest of dinner. They don't like it when I bring up the fact that they used to hit us kids in front of people outside of our immediate family. My mom and dad were pretty angry at me when everyone else left though, and told me there was no need to embarrass my mom at dinner. They asked me to apologize and I won't. I'm second guessing though, am I the a-hole? I am no contact with half of my family due to abuse, so I can relate to your situation. I firmly believe that you're not the a-hole in this scenario. Your response to your mom was a direct and honest reflection of your feelings and experiences. It's important to stand up for yourself, especially when faced with past trauma and abuse. The comment your mom made about the gift from your boyfriend was dismissive and judgmental. Your reply, although sharp, was a valid expression of your perspective and the values you hold dear, especially given the context of your upbringing. It's understandable that such a comment would trigger a strong response, considering the history of physical abuse by your dad and emotional neglect by your mom. It's also important to recognize that you have every right to establish boundaries with your parents, especially when it comes to addressing past abuse. If bringing up these issues is necessary for you to maintain your sense of integrity and self-respect, then it's justified. It's not your responsibility to protect your parents from the consequences of their actions, particularly when those actions have caused harm. You should not feel obliged to apologize for speaking your truth, especially when it's about something as serious as abuse. It's crucial for your own well-being to be able to express your feelings and stand up for yourself. You did what was right for you in that moment, and that's what matters most. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife she isn't a single mother? Me, 31 male, and my wife, 28 female, have been married 7 years. We have 3 kids together, 10 years, 7 years, and 4 years. For the last 6 years I have been the sole income for our family. I work up to 60 hours a week, sometimes 7 days a week. Despite this, I still come home and do housework like the cat boxes and cleaning the bathroom. My wife, on the other hand, does the dishes maybe once every other week and is supposed to be homeschooling the kids. I say she is supposed to be because I work second shift, so I leave at 4 p.m. and get home around 2 a.m. When I wake up at noon, she is always in bed next to me, and the kids are playing the Switch in the next room. She says she does the schooling between 8 and 11 because she read that kids only need 3 hours when you're homeschooling, and she also doesn't do Mondays. When I go to work, she is usually at her TV playing video games and the kids are still on the Switch. Anyway, I confronted her about the homeschooling and she got really angry. She said how dare I question her parenting since I'm never home, and she is basically a single mother. This isn't the first time she's called herself a single mom, as I've heard her say it in front of my parents and her mom. I told her she wasn't a single mom. I spend every moment I'm not at work or sleeping with them, and I work hard to provide because we are still financially struggling. She was going to get a job after the kids were all in school, but then decided to homeschool. I told her calling herself a single mom is insulting to mothers who are working and doing everything completely on their own. Well, now she's not talking to me and asked me if I wanted a divorce, as she always does when we have an argument. Am I the a-hole, or am I right to tell her to stop calling herself a single mom? I don't believe you are the a-hole in this situation. It's understandable that you feel frustrated and upset about your wife referring to herself as a single mother, especially considering your efforts to provide for your family and participate in household duties despite your demanding work schedule. Your contribution to the family, both financially and in terms of household chores, is significant, and it's reasonable to expect recognition and appreciation for that. The term single mother typically refers to someone who is raising children entirely on their own, without the support of a partner. In your case, it sounds like you are actively involved and contributing to the family's well-being, which does not make her a single parent, but she may mean that she feels like a single parent. Her insistence on identifying as a single mother in reaction to your confrontation suggests there are underlying issues in your relationship and her perception of your family dynamics. It's possible that she feels overwhelmed or unacknowledged in some aspects of her role at home, which could be contributing to her behavior and comments. Considering this, it might be beneficial for both of you to see a therapist, individually and possibly as a couple. A therapist can help your wife address any feelings of isolation or overwhelm she might be experiencing and explore why she feels compelled to identify as a single mother. Couples therapy can also provide a safe space for both of you to communicate your feelings, understand each other's perspectives, and work together to improve your relationship dynamics. If you don't want to divorce and are willing to work through these issues, professional guidance can be a valuable tool in navigating these challenges and strengthening your relationship. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter if she keeps her pregnancy I'm kicking her out? I live alone with my 20-year-old daughter. My wife, her mother, died back in 2021, and I've been really struggling staying on top of the bills and barely have been able to keep us afloat. My daughter can't hold down a job, she quits or is let go from every job she lands, so I'm financially supporting her. She is my daughter, so I don't have the heart to kick her out of my home, but still having to take care of her financially has been a big burden on me. For Christmas, neither of us really had any money, so we did really small gifts this year. One of the gifts she got me was a pregnancy test that indicated she was pregnant. I started panicking. The thought of having to financially support another person while also guaranteeing my daughter won't be able to get a job got me sick to my stomach. Also, the fact she thought I'd be excited by the news tipped me off to the fact she was planning on keeping it. When I asked questions, she told me she isn't positive about who the father is and was going to keep it. I've explained to her if she keeps the baby I am going to have to kick her out of the house. She started arguing with me that I couldn't do that, but I was very firm in that if the baby stays with her, she cannot live in this house. She isn't ready to be a parent whatsoever, and I will not be able to support them. She accused me of forcing her to get an abortion, which I denied. She can keep the baby, she can put it up for adoption, or she can abort. What she can't do is keep the baby and live with me. When I told my sister about this, she was furious at me and said I should be thrilled to add a member to the family. I said if she's so excited my daughter can live with her then. She scoffed. Obviously, because she couldn't afford to support them either. Am I being an a-hole by putting this on my daughter? I don't believe you are the a-hole in this situation. The circumstances you're in are incredibly challenging, especially as a single parent still struggling with the loss of your wife and the financial burden of supporting your household. You are faced with the prospect of an even greater financial strain, and it's clear that you're already stretched thin. It's a tough situation for any parent to be in, but setting boundaries is important, especially when it involves significant life changes and responsibilities. Your daughter, at 20, needs to understand the implications of her choices, particularly when it affects not just her life but yours as well. The reality of raising a child, especially when she's struggling to hold down a job, is something she needs to seriously consider. You're not forcing her to make any specific choice regarding her pregnancy. You're simply outlining the realistic consequences of her decision to keep the baby. It's a responsible approach to an incredibly difficult situation. As for your sister's reaction, it's ironic and somewhat telling that she's willing to scold you but not to offer practical help or take your daughter in herself. It's easy to have opinions about what others should do, but it takes real commitment and resources to actually help out in a tangible way. You might want to consider having a calm, in-depth conversation with your daughter about her options and the realities of each. While you love your daughter and want to support her, it's also important to take care of your own well-being and financial stability. You're doing the best you can in a challenging situation, and setting boundaries is a part of that. Would I be the a-hole if I divorced my husband after the death of our child? My husband, Liam, 39 male, and I, 36 female, have been married for 11 years, together for 15. A couple of years ago, our little bundle of joy, our 6-year-old daughter, was snatched away from us in a car accident, in which Liam was driving. I was back home when I had received a call from the hospital. Liam was in ICU for a month, while I received the terrible news of the death of our daughter, who died on the spot. He went in shock when he heard the news. Ever since then, Liam has completely withdrawn from me. He took off all the pictures which contained our daughter, turned her room into his study, and pretended as if our daughter never existed. I knew he was grieving. Many times I had heard him silently weeping in our daughter's room. I tried to get him into therapy, or for us to go to counseling, but he had shut down my offer every single time, and goes into a rage whenever I mention it. He yells, he breaks things, and storms off, and doesn't come back home for a couple of days, leaving me worried sick. He barely comes home nowadays, completely avoids me, and rejects my every attempt for comfort. Once, when I had tried to make him understand that this wasn't what our daughter would have wanted, he completely lost it, smashed a flower pot against the wall, and told me to go F myself or better, die and never come back. Liam was never like this. He was a very sweet, calm and patient man, and loved our daughter to death, so much so that her first word was Dada. I still love him, but I miss our daughter too. I need some comfort too. Neither of us have any siblings, and our close friends are in different countries. Liam is no contact with his mother while his father had died shortly after the birth of our daughter. My parents tried to comfort me as much as they could. They told me to be patient with him, to help him get back on his feet, but I am tired. I tried everything. Earlier, we used to share the household chores, but now I have completely taken them on myself so that he can grieve in peace. I cook his favorite meals, which he throws away without even taking a single bite. The last straw was a couple of months ago, when I had told him if he doesn't get into therapy, I'd file for a divorce. He coldly smiled at me, and thanked me for showing him my true colors. He told me to go ahead with the divorce since I seemed so eager to ditch him. I feel guilty, horrible and completely useless, but I just can't go on like this any longer. Should I give him more time? Would things get better? Would I be the a-hole if I leave him now when I am supposed to be comforting him? You are absolutely not the a-hole in this situation. The loss of a child is one of the most devastating experiences a parent can endure, and each person copes with grief in their own way. It's clear that the way your husband Liam is dealing with his grief is not only unhealthy for him, but is also deeply affecting you. His behavior, including removing all reminders of your daughter and turning her room into a study, indicates a level of denial and avoidance that is concerning. I'm glad that you remember that you too are grieving the loss of your daughter. While your intentions to support Liam are compassionate and understandable, your own need for support and comfort is equally valid. Grief can be an isolating experience, and when compounded with the behavior from Liam, it can feel overwhelming. Your efforts to encourage therapy and counseling are wise and necessary steps in dealing with such profound loss. Liam's refusal to seek help and his aggressive reactions are red flags that cannot be ignored. It's not sustainable or healthy for you to be in an environment where you are not only neglected but also subjected to hostility and anger. The decision to file for divorce in the face of such circumstances is not an easy one, but it is a decision that prioritizes your mental and emotional well-being. It's clear that you've tried multiple avenues to help Liam and to save your marriage, but without his willingness to participate in the healing process, there's only so much you can do. Grieving the loss of a child and facing the potential end of your marriage simultaneously is an immense burden. Please make sure to seek support for yourself, whether through therapy, support groups, or leaning on friends and family. You have the right to a life where you feel safe, respected, and cared for. You are not abandoning Liam by choosing to divorce, you are taking a necessary step to protect your own well-being. It's a brave and difficult decision, but your health and happiness are important. You deserve to be in an environment where you can grieve, heal, and eventually find peace. Am I the a-hole for giving my children permission to defend themselves and ruining my brother's visit? My brother has 2 stepkids, 10 and 8, that are absolute brats. He is infatuated with their mother though, so he will not discipline them. It's fine because we do not see them much. Over the holidays he came over with his family, and the kids were horrible. My daughter, 11, and my son, 10, wanted nothing to do with them. I gave them permission to go to their rooms and lock the doors to keep the peace. My brother and his wife started complaining because my kids were being bad hosts. I said that I wasn't going to make my children unhappy to appease his. Eventually my kids did come out to try and play together again. His kids started pushing my son around. He told them to stop but they wouldn't. My daughter told them to stop bugging her brother but they wouldn't. They came to us and told us what was going on. My brother called them tattletales and told them to just go play and deal with it themselves. I asked him if that's what he really wanted. He said yes, let kids be kids. I took him to my daughter's room and pointed out that she had multiple belts and trophies from martial arts. Then I showed him my son's room, same thing. Then I went back to the living room and told my kids, in front of him and his wife, that they had my permission to defend themselves. He immediately called his kids over and told them to behave. Their mom was not pleased. She said that her kids were just having fun. I said that my kids' idea of fun was probably a little more violent than hers. Long story short, they behaved for about 10 minutes and then they decided to test my kids. One black eye and an arm bar later, his kids are sitting on the couch while my brother and his wife yell at me for raising brutes. For the record, each of his kids, although younger, are bigger than my daughter, and they had had multiple warnings to play nice. So currently, there is a huge family fight because I let my kids beat up his innocent angels. Unfortunately for him, most of the people that have met his kids are asking what they did to provoke mine. My mom says that I should not have told my kids to defend themselves. I told her that she was welcome to host any and all gatherings that involved those brats. Last time they were there, they destroyed a stuffed animal that had the remains of her last dog. She doesn't like having them in her house either. Am I the a-hole? I'm going to judge this post as everyone sucks here. While I understand your frustration with your brother's lack of discipline towards his stepchildren and the difficulties in managing the situation, encouraging physical retaliation from your children wasn't the best course of action. It would have been more appropriate and mature to ask your brother and his family to leave your home when their behavior became unacceptable. This sets a clear boundary without resorting to violence. On the other hand, your brother and his wife also bear responsibility for this situation. Allowing their children to behave disruptively and disrespectfully without intervening or setting boundaries is not appropriate. Their lack of action led to an environment where conflict was almost inevitable. It's concerning that your brother dismissed your children's complaints and didn't take the opportunity to address his children's behavior. It's understandable that you wanted to protect your children and make them feel safe in their own home. However, endorsing physical defense in this scenario might have escalated the situation rather than resolving it. In the future, it might be more effective to set nonviolent boundaries and enforce them firmly, such as asking disruptive guests to leave. It might be helpful to have a calm, honest conversation with your brother about how his children's behavior affects others and set those boundaries with him before the next gathering. Am I the a-hole for saying I'd rather divorce my husband than neglect my niece again? Before I start, I want to mention that there is no CPS in my country and parents are allowed to treat their kids however they like, so don't tell me to call CPS. My niece, 14, lives in a very abusive household. Whenever things get bad, she calls me to get her out of there. 2 nights ago, my husband and I were making love when she called me again. I answered the phone, but before she could say anything, my husband said, very loudly, that my niece could hear, "I'm so freaking tired of dealing with your family. Why can't we have one damn night to ourselves?" and asked me to hang up the phone. I told my niece that I had to go and asked her if it's anything serious, otherwise it can wait till morning. She said never mind and hung up the phone. Next day I went to my brother's house, niece's dad, just to find out that he had kicked her out, and she had nowhere to go last night. So she spent the night outside the house in the cold weather and got sick. She was burning in fever, so we took her to a hospital. I asked her if she is okay and she told me to just leave because it's clear that I don't freaking care and my husband is more important than her. I told her I'm sorry and that I'd rather divorce my husband than neglect her again. Now my husband is furious, but I meant what I said. I can't ever let him make me neglect her again. He thinks I'm an a-hole and should prioritize our relationship. Your post really resonated with me. First and foremost, you are not the a-hole here. Your husband is, and so is your niece's dad. I find it incredibly admirable that you are committed to being there for your niece. Having come from a family where abuse was present, and not having anyone to intervene, I deeply understand the significance of your support in her life. It's a beacon of hope and safety in a world that can sometimes be overwhelmingly dark for her. I'm sorry about the situation you're in. Balancing the needs of your marriage with the urgent and serious needs of your niece is not easy. Your willingness to stand up for her, especially in an environment where there are no formal protections like CPS, speaks volumes about your character and the depth of your empathy. Your husband's frustration, while understandable in the context of wanting time for your relationship, doesn't seem to fully grasp the gravity of the situation your niece is in. It's crucial that he understands the impact his words and actions have, not just on your niece, but on your ability to provide a safe haven for her. In situations of abuse, especially involving a child, the immediacy and severity of the need should indeed surpass other concerns. You should have an honest conversation with your husband about the values and commitments you both hold and how you can navigate this situation together. Your stance to protect your niece is not just noble, it's essential. It's clear that you're making difficult choices out of love and a sense of responsibility. Whatever path you choose, remember that your support could very well be the lifeline your niece needs in these critical moments of her life. If your husband does not view your niece's situation in the same light, then it may be time to reevaluate the future of your marriage. I am willing to give my wife everything she is asking for in divorce. Am I the a-hole? My wife and I are having issues. She is a stay-at-home mom and I work to provide financially. I work a high-stress job and it's very mentally draining and I am not able to contribute that much in housework and childcare. It has been a constant struggle for the past year where she is complaining that she feels like a single mother and she has all the mental burden. I tried to help but it was never enough. In a fight she said that she will be better off without me, that she would do better with child support and alimony, and will not have to care about me. It hurt me very bad and I just lost the will to fight. I just became disengaged. I dread going back to my house after work and my workplace is not a pleasant place. We had a fight on New Year's Eve and I told her that I am letting her go. I agree with her, she will be better off without me. I asked her for divorce. She got mad and gave me the silent treatment for 2 days. Then she asked me for full custody of the kids and I agreed. Then she asked me for the house and I agreed, since the kids need that big house anyways. She asked me to keep the kids on my insurance and of course I agreed. She said she wants me to move out and I told her I would soon. I have been looking for a shared house as I really do not want to live in an empty apartment. For some reason she became mad at me for agreeing with what she wants. Started picking a fight about how I didn't change the oil in her car when I promised to. I did. I forgot to tell her with all the things going on. I didn't have the energy to argue so I spaced out for a bit. Now she keeps on crying. What more does she want me to do? I am willing to give her everything she wants. That's all I can do. Am I the a-hole? I don't believe that divorce is necessarily the solution here. It seems like your wife doesn't want you to give up on your relationship, she wants you back. The person you were before the burnout and depression from your job took over your life. The fact that your job is so mentally draining that you can't enjoy your life or be there for your family in the ways you need to be is a significant concern. A less stressful and demanding job could allow you to regain your mental health and energy, making it possible for you to be more present at home. This could improve not only your personal well-being but also your relationship with your wife and children. You should absolutely seek out counseling too. It's not just about managing the stress and depression, but also about finding ways to communicate better with your wife and understanding each other's needs and frustrations. It seems like you're close to giving up on your family, but doing so might lead to a downward spiral. You should consider that your wife's frustrations are a call for help and a desire for a more engaged partnership, rather than a wish for separation. I'm sure you love your family and your wife. Depression and burnout can really make us self-destructive. I know therapy is still stigmatized, but help truly is a sign of strength, not weakness. Taking these steps might lead to a much more positive outcome for you, your wife, and your children. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that he needs to do his own thing because I don't want him involved with my business? 30 female. I opened up my own business in January of last year. I was bedridden, tough pregnancy, and had zero income, and I wanted to do something, so I got into resale. My husband at the time told me I was wasting my time and that it was nothing but a pipe dream and that I was wasting money. It actually caused a lot of fights in the beginning. But I stuck it out because I believed in myself and didn't really give myself the ability to fail. My kids even joined in with me. 3 kids from my previous marriage plus a now 4-month-old with my husband. But yeah, so he didn't believe in me at all basically. He just saw me as wasting money. Now, we have separate bank accounts, and all of my product is kept in an indoor storage unit, so my husband has never seen my product or known how much money I've brought it. I'd been paying my portion of the bills and not giving any hints on what I'd been doing. I honestly, as childish as it may be, wanted to wait until I had a bucket load of profit and then show him. That way he felt bad for all those fights he picked with me over wasting money. But anyways, since I started the business, I have a profit so far of $34,000. I've only lost out so far on maybe $5,000 worth of product. Considering I started with a measly $500, I'm very impressed and proud of myself. I promote mainly on TikTok and have my own business account on there. Well, my husband found the business account on TikTok and saw I had a following of around 400,000. Almost. He started asking questions and eventually it got to him asking how much I've made. Well, I went over the numbers with him and now he's super interested in what I'm doing and tries coming with me and the kids on the weekends to do inventory and shipments. Now I'm willing to admit that I'm just getting touched out by his presence within my business. Because now he's trying to get me to buy things that he likes, not what the general consumer does. He's trying to change the way I do things by offering suggestions on what would be easier. He's always right in the way, and he's just stressing me out. And now, he's saying that he wants to join in and basically use my TikTok account to promote the things he buys, which he wants me to do because he hates being on camera. I feel bad because I know it would be a way for us to connect over something profitable, but I just don't want to. My kids and I started from scratch and he picked massive fights with me over this, but now that he sees I'm making money, he wants to use what I built without him so he can make money off of it. So I told him he needs to do his own thing. Start from scratch like I did. Learn like I did. Because I don't want him involved in what me and my kids built. Especially not after picking all those fights with me and making me feel stupid, without an apology up until I mentioned it to him either. He says I'm blowing this out of proportion and that he just wants to be involved and says he won't apologize for having his doubts and says I should understand. But now that I've proven him wrong, I should be willing to cut him in on it because it can be a family thing. I just don't want him to. This is me and my kids' thing and I don't want him taking over at all or have any say on how we do things. Which I know will happen. Edit to add, it was my money that started the business, and only my money that went into it. He didn't help at all. Let me just say that you are a total boss mama for starting and successfully running your own business. It's incredibly impressive that you turned a $500 investment into a $34,000 profit, all while managing a tough pregnancy and caring for your children. Your determination and belief in yourself are truly inspiring. In my opinion, you are absolutely right in not wanting your husband to be involved in your business. I firmly believe that couples should generally avoid going into business together. I speak from personal experience, as I went into business with my husband for 5 years too. While it was okay for a while, I eventually left to start my own venture, and I've been much happier since making that decision. My husband also started his own business, and we're both doing better now that we have our separate professional paths. Your husband's initial lack of faith in your business and the conflicts that arose from it are significant. Now that he sees the success you've achieved, his sudden interest and desire to be involved seem more about the profits than a genuine desire to support your passion. It's especially telling that he hasn't apologized for his earlier doubts and is now pushing to integrate his ideas into your business. Maintaining your autonomy in your business is crucial, not just for the success of the venture, but for your personal empowerment and the dynamic you have with your children in this endeavor. You and your kids built this from the ground up, and it's a testament to your hard work and vision. Allowing your dismissive husband to come in and potentially change the direction of what you've created would likely undermine what makes your business special and successful. You're doing the right thing by encouraging him to start his own thing if he's interested in entrepreneurship. Keep trusting your instincts and doing what's best for you and your kids. What you've built is yours, and you have every right to protect it and run it the way you see fit. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to be intimate with my boyfriend because I discovered he doesn't really intend to marry me after 15 years? Advice needed. I'm 33 female, in a relationship with my boyfriend, 38 male, for 15 years. We were engaged 8 years ago, but no further plans were made. When I mentioned it, he always found a reason why we had to wait. It was not a good time, we had no money, etc. I never asked for any expensive wedding. I offered to elope or go to the courthouse. He declined, said he wanted a proper wedding because that's what I had mentioned I originally wanted. The engagement ring he bought me was $20 because we were poor at the time, but when it broke I never got a replacement. We now spend on average $100 a month just on takeout or going out. For comparison, a couple months ago he said he wanted to get me something expensive for $1,500 but didn't have the money. I immediately knew, so I pressured him to tell me what it is because he never has bought me anything more than $100. He said it was a ring. I said if he really wanted, he could have easily saved a ridiculous $10 a month for the past 8 years and get me a good enough ring because I'm supposed to wear it forever, and why the F would he mention it if he can't get it? Makes no sense. A few weeks ago he mentioned wanting to save for a car to replace his old one. I got furious and we had a serious talk. I asked about his real plans and to stop with the BS and be a man. After much pressure he said he didn't think marriage is important. I asked, "Why did you get engaged then?" He said he wanted to. I told him he makes no sense, and to think, if his sister had a boyfriend for that long acting the same way, what would he think about it? He said nothing. I said you have a month to think and decide, then I'm leaving. Then he said, "No, you're not leaving, we'll get married soon. But we need to insert couple of things to be done or paid first." So I've been cold as ice since that talk. I'm not arguing or acting mad, but I'm a roommate, not a girlfriend. I'm barely kissing him once a day, no sex, no intimacy. It hurts me because I love him, I feel lonely. But I don't want to act like everything is okay and ignore the elephant in the room. I feel hurt and rejected. So now I'm rejecting him as well. He complained a few times, asked why I'm doing this. He genuinely doesn't get why I treat him like this. So am I the a-hole? Edit. More info. We live in his owned house. I do own property of my own that I rent out. No debt. We have savings for emergencies. So not rich, not poor either. No, I do not want to marry him just to cheat and divorce and get half of it, as someone suggested. I do make more than he does, so I do not need his money. No, he doesn't cheat. I never asked for an expensive ring. He was the one to mention it in the first place. Could be a $100 ring, but no, he mentioned $1,500, and then proceeded to tell me he couldn't get it in the same sentence. I'd respect anyone who clearly says marriage is not for them. That's honest. My issue is when a man asks a woman to marry him, says multiple times he wants to marry, then states marriage is not important. And yes, he wants to have kids with me, even without being married, and has mentioned it multiple times. But I was clear from early on that I would not have kids until I'm married. That's my personal preference, and he was aware and agreed. He could have said no. I'm not using lack of sex to force or blackmail him to marry me. It's just how I feel at the moment, so I'm acting based on these feelings. Not the a-hole at all. It's clear you've been incredibly patient and understanding in your relationship. After 15 years together and 8 years since your engagement, it's genuinely shocking that your boyfriend still doesn't seem committed to marrying you. You've had numerous discussions about it, and yet there's been no concrete action on his part. I can understand your frustration and why you're questioning the relationship at this point. In my view, it doesn't seem likely that he's going to commit to marriage. If he was genuinely interested in marrying you, he would have found a way to make it happen by now, especially given the length of your relationship and your willingness to keep things simple and low cost. It's concerning that he keeps finding excuses and delaying the marriage, despite knowing how important it is to you. You're not in the wrong for feeling hurt and rejected. It's a natural response to a situation where your needs and expectations are consistently overlooked. Your decision to be less intimate is understandable given the emotional state you're in. It's not about using intimacy as a tool to get what you want. It's about you not feeling emotionally connected enough to be intimate, which is a valid feeling. I think it might be time for you to seriously consider moving on. This doesn't mean you haven't tried or that you don't love him. It means you're recognizing your worth and your needs. You deserve to be with someone who not only loves you but also respects your desires and commitments, especially when it comes to something as significant as marriage and future plans. You've given this relationship a fair chance, and now it might be time to think about what's best for you in the long term. Am I the a-hole for telling my neighbor I won't let their kid play in my backyard after they destroyed my garden? Advice needed. Hey Reddit, need your wisdom on a neighborly dispute. Recently, my neighbor's kid was playing in my backyard without permission and ended up destroying my prized garden. Trampled flowers, broken ornaments, the whole 9 yards. I confronted the parents about it, expecting an apology and maybe an offer to help fix the damage. Instead, they brushed it off, saying kids will be kids, and I should be more understanding. Feeling frustrated, I told them that their child is no longer welcome in my backyard. Now they're upset, calling me unreasonable and claiming I'm overreacting. Am I the a-hole for setting boundaries and standing up for my property? Or should I have been more forgiving? Ready for your judgments. You are definitely not being an a-hole in this situation. It's reasonable to expect that your property, especially something you've put time and effort into like your garden, be respected by others. The fact that your neighbor's child destroyed your garden is unfortunate, but what's even more concerning is the parent's response. Brushing it off with a kids will be kids attitude and not offering to help fix the damage or ensure it doesn't happen again is disrespectful on their part. Your backyard is your property, and you have every right to decide who can and cannot use it. It's important to maintain those boundaries, especially when they've been disregarded in such a damaging way. It's disappointing that they're not taking this opportunity to teach their child about respect for others' property and the consequences of their actions. You're not obligated to be more forgiving, especially when the other party isn't showing remorse or a willingness to make amends. Your actions are about protecting your property and ensuring your hard work is not destroyed. Don't let their entitled attitude make you second-guess your decision. You're in the right here. Thank you for joining us for today's journey through the whispers of the web. Share your thoughts and suggestions for our next adventure. If you're not yet a part of our whispering community, click the subscribe button and click the bell for notifications to never miss out on another story. Join us next time as we uncover another enthralling tale from the web. Until our next whisper.